progress, but the damage is extensive. He may regain some function, but many patients in similar situations face permanent impairments, difficulty speaking, limited mobility, cognitive challenges. We won't know the full extent until he wakes up and we start therapy. Na let out a small choke sound and turned away, pressing a hand to her mouth. Willow, however, stared at Drew's still face for a long beat. Then, as if a switch flipped, she began to cry deep, wrenching sobs that shook her shoulders. She collapsed against the bed rail, face buried in her arms. "Oh, God, Drew, how could this happen?" Na moved to comfort her, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. But as she did, she caught something in Willow's expression. A flicker brief and almost imperceptible beneath the tears. Suspicion stirred in Na's chest, but she pushed it down. Not now. Not when her daughter was falling apart. Willow straightened after a moment, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Her voice, when she spoke, was steady despite the redness in her eyes. "He deserves the best care. Whatever it takes. Specialists, experimental treatments, anything. I just want to make sure my husband gets the treatment he deserves." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning that only Willow fully understood. Na studied her brows furrowed. "Of course he does," she murmured. But the doubt lingered. Back at Alexis's office, the conversation had shifted to practicalities. Scout would need to be told gently, perhaps over ice cream or during a favorite cartoon, something to cushion the blow. Alexis promised to handle the school pickup, to keep Scout's routine as normal as possible. Willow thanked her again profusely and left with a hug that felt tighter than usual. As the door closed behind Willow, Alexis sat back down, exhaling slowly. For once, something felt right in the chaos of Port Charles. Scout coming to live with her, even temporarily, was a gift she hadn't dared hope for. After years of battles, losses, and regrets, having her granddaughter under her roof meant late-night talks, morning pancakes, the chance to be the steady presence Scout needed. It wasn't the circumstances anyone would have chosen, but it was good news. Real tangible good news in a town that rarely delivered it. Alexis allowed herself a small smile. She picked up the phone to call Molly to start arranging the guest room to make sure there were child-appropriate groceries in the fridge. For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight on her shoulders lightened just a fraction. At the hospital, Willow lingered by Drew's bed long after Nina had stepped out to make calls. The room was quiet now, save for the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. Willow leaned close, her voice a whisper meant only for him. "You always said everything would work out, Drew. Look at us now." There was no response, of course, just the steady rise and fall of his chest. The machines doing their work. Willow's fingers traced the edge of his hand, then pulled away. She glanced toward the door, making sure no one was watching before composing her face into the mask of the devoted wife once more. Outside, the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink over the harbor. Port Charles moved on. People rushing to appointments, lovers arguing in coffee shops, families gathering for dinner. But in that hospital room, time had slowed to a crawl. Drew's future hung in uncertainty. A shadow over everyone who loved him or claimed to. Willow walked the corridors, nodding politely to nurses who offered sympathetic smiles. She passed Elizabeth Weber, who paused to squeeze her arm. "Hang in there," Elizabeth said. Willow managed a weak thank you, but inside her thoughts churned. She thought about Scout, now potentially safe with Alexis, away from the toxicity that had poisoned her marriage. She thought about the syringe, the moment of decision, the rush of power when Drew had fallen. And she thought about the road ahead, therapy sessions, hospital visits, perhaps even guardianship papers if things didn't improve. It was a lot to carry, but Willow felt lighter than she had in months. The trial was over. The shooting was behind her legally at least. And now Drew's condition shifted the power dynamic in ways she hadn't anticipated, but couldn't entirely regret. As night fell, Alexis prepared for Scout's arrival. The little girl would come with her backpack and her favorite stuffed animal, questions in her eyes that Alexis would answer as honestly as she could without shattering her world. Alexis would hold her close, read her stories, and promise that things would get better. And for once, she believed it might be true. In the quiet of her apartment, Alexis poured herself a small glass of wine. Celebratory almost, and raised it in a silent toast, to Scout, to second chances, to the rare moments when good news arrived unannounced and stayed. The city lights twinkled outside her window, indifferent to the dramas unfolding within. But inside, a small victory had been claimed. Alexis would cherish it, nurture it, protect it. Because in Port Charles, good news was fleeting, and she intended to hold on to this one for as long as she. Hello everyone and welcome to ABCGH Spoilers channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Liz stops by Laura's office because she's worried about her after Kevin and Ace leave town. She understands what it's like to have an empty home and offers to keep her company anytime she wants it. Laura thanks her and says she will phone her later to make plans. No more Agent Jacks. Brennan visits Jaw's house on serious business. He says that one of the WSB's top brass director Ross Cullum of the European branch is in town and he believes he is a danger to Jaw's safety. Jack reveals that Cullum does not yet know her name, but he does not trust Cullum to protect her in the same way he has. Therefore, she will be deactivated and all WSB activities will halt. Joss is outraged that she is expected to go considering that her uncle has moved to Spoon Island as a result of her. But Jack assures her that Sidwell's new butler, Pascal, would know her the instant he sees her. He is putting a fresh asset into play, Britt West. Jack informs Joss that she is now a sleeper agent who must stay away from the WSB headquarters, her uncle, and Windmere. She will return to being a PCU student until further notice. He likes her job, but she must remain sharp and invisible. Brennan walks out. Cullum has questions at Bobby's. Britt notices Cullum sitting at a table. Lulu and Rocco enter to greet him and take a seat. Cullum wanted to speak with them regarding Dalton's absence. Following the laboratory break-in, Rocco admits that he broke into the lab because he believed Dalton was testing on animals and that he should have handled the situation better. However, he has no idea where Dalton is currently. Cullen gives them his card in case he has any further thoughts on Dalton. Britt picks a fight. Carly appears and asks Britt why she had to leave everything to meet her here. Britt informs her that she is leaving this slum of a rat trap, which leads to them exchanging insults and finally a full-fledged dispute about Jason and Carly's codependent relationship, which Britt is sick of. Cullum stops their argument, places his bill on the counter, and leaves. Carly then informs Britt that she recognizes when she is being baited. So why did she bring her here to provoke a fight? Meanwhile, Rocco and Lulu leave and Rocco sets off for GH to begin his community service. Lulu visits her mother at her office to ensure that she is not overburdened with work now that Kevin and Ace have left. Laura tells her about Liz's visit and Lulu mentions that she recently spoke with the WSB concerning Dalton's disappearance. Is Chase fired? At the PCPD, Dante checks in with Nathan regarding the evidence review, but Nathan hasn't discovered anything new. Chaz comes and he and Dante proceed to the interrogation room to examine his predicament. Dante informs him that internal affairs determined that he violated procedure by conducting an unsanctioned investigation utilizing sensitive material obtained by the PCPD and exploiting police resources for personal gain. But no laws were breached. Dante informs him there will be consequences. Thus, he is demoted to beat cop. He can either put in the effort to reclaim his detective position or resign. Dante asks him to let him know when he makes his decision. Chase storms off, telling Nathan, "You'd better find a new partner." As he departs, Tracy makes Jason an offer. Jason visits Tracy in the Quartermaines mansion, and she offers to be his alibi for where he was when he did whatever he did to Drew. He thanked her, but he had nothing to do with Drew's situation. Jason immediately summons Danny and informs him about Drew. Unfortunately, they must still obey the restraining order as Drew may punish them for disobeying it if and when he awakens. Danny inquires whether Willow, as Scout's acting guardian, may lift the restraining order. Jason cannot ask her because they are not on good terms, but he knows someone who can help. Chase later returns home enraged, knocking over Tracy's backgammon set. Na gives Kai advice at the hospital. Nina asks Lucas for an update on Drew. Lucas is ready to meet with a neurologist about the test results, but he can only speak with Willow. Kai arrives seeking for Willow, and Nina explains that she had to step away for a moment. Kai has a press release about Drew's illness and would like Willow to evaluate it. They end up talking about Kai's unwillingness to continue working for Drew after his blackmail of Trina's mother. Na advises Kai not to make any judgments just yet, and Drew may emerge from this as an entirely different man. Furthermore, Drew's flaws can be outweighed by Kai's strengths. Willow visits Alexis in her office and notifies her of Drew's stroke. Willow believes the trial took its toll and that someone should tell Scout about her father. Alexis says she'll explain it to Scout and thanks Willow for watching after her granddaughter. Alexis also believes that for the time being, Scout should live with her. Willow agrees because even with the greatest prognosis, Drew's recovery will be tough for the young daughter to witness. Alexis asks about Danny. Willow knows Scout saw Danny at Christmas, but she did not inform Drew. However, she is apprehensive about them seeing each other and Drew finding out later. Alexis says they can talk about Danny later when Drew has been cleared. Willow then goes to the hospital. Suzanne comes in to check on Alexis, who reveals Willow granted her access to Scout, the one thing she has left from Sam, making her even more valuable. Suzanne claims she is deserving of this recognition for her efforts throughout the trial. Alexis informs Suzanne that she is shown to be more than simply an assistant. She is a close friend. Danny returns later and begs his grandma if she might speak with Willow about him seeing Scout. What is Drew's prognosis? Willow arrives at the hospital and discovers the statement from Drew's office. She reviews it and informs Kai and Nina that Scout will be living with Alexis for the time being. Willow approves the statement and Lucas announces some news. Liz, who is now at work, joins them as Lucas explains that Drew had a severe ischemic stroke that affected both his language and motor areas. Kai inquires, "What does that mean?" Willow tears because once Drew regains awareness, he will require extensive speech and occupational physical treatment and a complete recovery is unlikely. Lucas apologizes and leaves Willow to ponder the news. Willow displays crocodile tears and Liz consoles her. Na sends Kai out to finish the press releases as Willow sobs. In the final moments of the show, Jason appears at Bobby's while Britt and Carly resume their fight. However, Nina appears suspicious. He inquires if everything is fine here. Britt claims Carly was only reminding her why she doesn't want anything to do with him. Carly is astounded. Joss arrives in the hospital to see Lucas and help him and her mother reconcile. Lucas is not ready to forgive Carly for her rejection of him and Marco because he already receives enough condemnation from Pascal the butler who has happily returned to France on business. He invites her to spend out with him at Windmere and she accepts. Liz leads Rocco to the locker area where he can change into his clothing for his very nasty new job. Laura questions Lulu at her office about the WSB's interest in Dalton. Lulu says it's evident they're investigating his disappearance and hoping to find him. At the station, Dante informs Nathan that Chase has been demoted to beat cop and he doubts he would want to stay. Dante says he'll rely on Nathan more than ever now that they're down a detective. Tracy sees Chase at home cleaning up her game set and he informs her that he has been demoted to patrol cop. Chase never expected things to come to this and he has no idea what he will do now. Tracy advises he bring it up with Brooklyn. In her office, Alexis tells Danny that his mother would be proud of him for watching out for Scout. She brought this up with Willow and she believes he and Scout will be spending time together soon. Finally, at the hospital, Nina sits next to Willow, who is nearly in a daze. She knows her daughter does not love her husband, but she was plainly distressed when Lucas told them the news. She encourages her not to turn her sympathy for Drew into forgiveness or genuine love. Willow claims he only wants Drew to get the treatment he deserves. Oh, no doubt. Nurse Willow will be there for Drew in the worst possible way. The afternoon light filtered through the blinds in Alexis Davis's law office, casting long shadows across the cluttered desk where stacks of legal briefs and half-empty coffee cups told the story of another relentless day in Port Charles. Alexis sat back in her chair rubbing her temples when the door opened quietly and Willow Tait stepped inside. Willow's face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed, and she carried herself with the kind of careful poise that suggested she was holding everything together by sheer force of will. Alexis immediately stood, concern etching deeper lines into her expression. "Willow, what's wrong?" Willow closed the door behind her and leaned against it for a moment as if gathering strength. "It's Drew. He had a stroke. A massive one." The words came out in a rush. Barely above a whisper, and Alexis felt the air leave the room. She moved around the desk quickly, guiding Willow to a chair. "Sit down. Tell me everything." As Willow spoke, her voice cracked repeatedly. She described coming home to find Drew collapsed. The frantic call to emergency services, the rush to General Hospital, where doctors had worked furiously to stabilize him. She mentioned the initial fear that it was connected to the stress of her recent trial. The one where she'd been acquitted of shooting him, but the doctors had been clear. This was something far more severe, a cerebrovascular event that had hit hard and fast. Willow's hands trembled as she clasped them in her lap. They said the damage is extensive. Motor skills, speech, even if he wakes up fully conscious, which isn't guaranteed yet, the prognosis isn't good. Alexis listened without interruption, her lawyer's mind already racing through implications. Guardianship, custody, legal ramifications, but her heart as a grandmother focused on the little girl who tied them all together. Scout, Drew's daughter with Sam, but now part of this tangled web through marriage and circumstance. "And Scout," Alexis asked gently, "does she know?" Willow shook her head. "Not yet. I didn't know how to tell her. She's so young and she's already been through so much. Losing her mom, adjusting to everything. I can't put this on her alone." Tears welled up again. And this time, Willow didn't fight them. "I thought maybe you could help. Tell her, or at least be there when I do." Alexis reached across the desk and took Willow's hand. It was cold, clammy. "Of course. But Willow, listen to me. This is going to be hard on Scout no matter what. She's going to need stability routine. Someone who isn't in the middle of a hospital vigil every day. I think it would be best if she came to stay with me for a while. At least until we know more about Drew's condition." Willow looked up, surprise flickering through the grief. "You do that?" "I already love that little girl like she's my own blood," Alexis said softly. "And right now she needs someone who can focus on her bedtime stories and school lunches, not on waiting rooms and bad news. You need to be with Drew, or at least near him, figuring out his care. Let me take Scout. It'll give you breathing room." For a long moment, Willow was silent. Then she nodded slowly. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you right now." There was genuine relief in her voice mixed with something else. Something almost too grateful, too quick. Alexis noticed but filed it away for later. There would be time to unpack everything once the immediate crisis passed. Meanwhile, across town at General Hospital, the sterile hum of machines filled Drew Cain's room. He lay motionless in the bed, tubes and monitors surrounding him like silent sentinels. Willow had arrived earlier after leaving Alexis's office, and now she stood at his bedside with Nina Reeves. Her mother hovering nearby. Na's face was a mask of worry. Her usual sharp edges softened by fear for her son-in-law. Lucas Jones, the doctor on call, had just finished reviewing the latest scans and approached them with a grave expression. "I've spoken with the neurologist," Lucas began carefully. "The stroke affected the areas controlling speech and motor function significantly. Drew is in a coma right now, but even if he regains consciousness, he'll face intensive rehabilitation. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, it's going to be a long road." Willow's breath hitched. She reached out and touched Drew's hand, the one not bound by 4 lines, but he could recover fully. Lucas hesitated, glancing between Willow and Nina. A full recovery, it's unlikely. Possible in rare cases with miraculous